is in South Africa. It's actually my dissertation topic, and I am just going to share one case really, because I'm still in the process of kind of developing my dissertation. But I'm specifically looking at an organization which is called Sonke Gender Justice in South Africa. Some of you may be familiar with that organization. I don't work for them, but I'm just looking at the organization, and they're an organization which supports men and boys to work towards gender equality, and also to prevent domestic and sexual violence, and reduce the spread and impact of HIV and AIDS. They also do a lot of activism, so they also get men and boys to get involved in activism and actually take a stand publicly against sexual and domestic violence in South Africa. Now, South Africa is very well known for its violence. It has a very high level of violence against women, but also against men. And in a study in 2006, they found that 1 in 4 South African men have raped someone, and nearly half of them admitted to more than one attack. And as William was speaking earlier, which I was so grateful for, you gave a bit of context to South Africa, was that these violent masculinities was really formed during colonization and apartheid, with the racial discrimination that was institutionalized in South Africa. The interesting thing about that I really want to look at is how difficult it is for these organizations who's trying to work on the perceptions of men and to challenge harmful gender perceptions in South Africa, that they're actually working in a political climate that is working against these organizations. So I don't know if everyone here is familiar with the Jacob Zuma rape trial that went on in South Africa in 2006. And he was accused of raping a family friend. And what was scary about this was how his supporters were also so violent. And they, outside of court, they were protesting, and they were burning effigies of the woman, and they were singing, "Burn the bitch, burn the bitch." And Zuma was later acquitted. He's president now today. But what I also want to share is about his staunch supporter Julius Malema, who resurrected his case recently. Who said that, who actually spoke directly in relation to Zuma's rape trial. And as he was addressing a group of students, he said, and I'm quoting here, "Those who had a nice time will wait until the sun comes out, request breakfast, and ask for taxi money. In the morning, that lady requested breakfast and taxi money." And Julius Malema was responding directly to Zuma, the woman that Zuma was accused of raping. And what Sonke Gender Justice did is that they took Julius Malema to the Equality Court. So this is the fantastic, the other positive side of political activism in South Africa is how Sonke Gender Justice also challenges the state and the government. So they took him to the Equality Court, and they demanded that he makes a public apology, that he retracts his statements, and that he pays 50,000 rand to a shelter of abused women. Of course, this didn't go down really well. And what happened was that, he refused to apologize, but he came back, and I actually just read an article 2 days ago, where he came back and then he accused Sonke Gender Justice of being racist. So he was, and this is typical in South Africa, where they pull out the race card. So he accused Sonke Gender Justice of being racist, and having an imperialist desire to embarrass black leadership. And he said, and I'll quote again, "The black faces you see in front, those are not real faces. They represent the whites who are opposed to African leadership." And he's referring to Sonke Gender Justice. And he said this outside of court. Julius Malema, he vowed never to succumb to pressure by white minority, and for what was also really shocking was he called on progressive forces to boycott Sonke. You know, and he called Sonke Gender Justice a Mickey Mouse organization. And this really just shows his ignorance. And this is a guy in South Africa who has a massive student support base. You know, and this comments that he's making in public, just like Jacob Zuma, is obviously very damaging. I mean, it perpetuates rape in South Africa, and it really just works against everything that organizations are trying to do to work against gender violence in South Africa. Yeah, so I mean, the questions that I have is obviously, what does this mean for the work that has already been done with men who are battling to change? Because, you know, these Sonke Gender Justice is working on individuals, men's behavior to try and change violent perceptions. And if these things are said in public by our political leaders, you know, it sends out confusing and conflicting messages to men. What does this mean for the country, and also the failure of the ANC to stop Malema and even stop Zuma from making these comments in public? What does that say about the government's commitment to gender equality and ending gender-based violence? Yeah, so that's how far I go.